Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the Bill and Ron Show. We're back. I know it's been a while, but we are back.
And we're indoors today because it is 100 degrees outside, the classic St. Louis summer. We have a special guest, architect Michael Byrd. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
We are glad to have you very much. So, you're an architect, therefore you're in the field of architecture.
Yes.
What is it that you do?
To the layman, we design buildings, but to the people in the industry, we kind of coordinate all of the people who are part of the process. So we're the team leader, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. We're herding cats.
Good to be the team leader.
That's right. Well, sometimes. Sometimes it's a pain. Now, let me guess. There's three levels. There's the architecture firm, the contractor, the subcontractor, and the grunt. Is that about right?
Well, I think the contractors would disagree with you. Usually, we're equal with the contractor.
Fair enough.
So the owner hires us, and the owner hires the contractor.
Oh, I see.
And then we hire consultants, and the contractor hires subcontractors.
You and the contractor are both hired by the same person. You're sort of in a relationship where you sort of are required to work together.
Yes, usually yes.
Okay. How does that usually go?
It is a little adversarial sometimes, but that can be good for the owner if we're both kind of working in the owner's best interests. Even if we disagree, that can be a good thing.
Okay. And so, do you do a lot of stuff in the city of St. Louis?
Yes, we do almost everything we do in the St. Louis area.
Okay. Do you have any observations about the way things have changed over the years or anything like that?
I think things have gotten to be more sustainable than they used to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
St. Louis is a town that has had a lot is waiting to grow. We have a lot of historical inventory that is ready to be reused and starting to get reused. And what you see in the city happening downtown now is a really good example of the way it's ready to grow.
When you say historical inventory, does that mean old buildings that need rehab?
Old buildings that are just waiting around. If St. Louis were growing during the last 20 or 30 years, I think a lot of that would have been lost. I think a lot of development would have come through and torn those things down. Those buildings wouldn't have survived. But because St. Louis hasn't grown, a lot of that stuff has just remained stagnant. Nobody can afford to tear it down. So
how do we make St. Louis grow?
I think it's immigration.
Immigration.
There are obvious answers like schools. You have to keep people here who are here. But I think to attract new people here, it's about immigration. It's not just about immigration from other countries, but I think that's a prime opportunity for the city to attract new people from new places. It's hard for us to compete against other larger cities, but we can compete against other cities in other parts of the world. And when we are, St. Louis is doing a good job as far as attracting entrepreneurship and investment in new businesses and new ideas. And if we can start companies here, then maybe they'll grow here.
The governor of Texas came here.
I was just thinking the same thing.
You know? Trying to recruit businesses to move to Texas. And why do you think he did that? I mean, I think we all know the answer, but just tell our audience, why do you think he did that?
I think he likes to attract attention, and I think running around and doing these ads is just positioning himself for his future career. He's not going to run again, so right. I think he's just trying to make as much noise as possible. He's the Sarah Palin of the Southwest.
So I'm going to ask you more about some of the details of architecture. I guess right now a big thing is sustainability, which you mentioned a little bit. And I know that there's the acronym LEED, L-E-E-D. Yeah, can you explain that to what's involved with that and from your perspective?
Sure. LEED is the current favorite amongst a bunch of different sustainability standards. So LEED is just the most successful in this country right now. It stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It was adapted from a European program, from an English program that turned into a Canadian program that became LEED. And it's a set of criteria against which a design is measured and against which the construction process is measured. So LEED is in some ways a really good way to reward a building and a design team and a construction team and an owner for making something sustainable. And it is in some ways a poor measure of how sustainability actually works. So it's controversial in the industry. It's expensive. It's an expensive process. It relies on professionals to come and validate some things, especially in the mechanical systems, the air conditioning and heating systems.
So I always think that comes to mind that building a new one is easier than repairing or rehabbing an old one.
In general, that's definitely true.
True for most things.
And LEED rewards you for keeping an old building or reusing parts of a building. But that having been said, it's still possible. It's perfectly possible to have a LEED building that's brand new. You could tear a building down and still have it be a LEED accredited building.
So the things that that there are things you don't like about LEED. What would you do differently?
There are other standards.
Mm-hmm.
There's one called Green Globes that's more flexible and considers more life cycle costs. For example, historically LEED has had problems in that it sets standards for certain things and ignores other things. So it has a hard time factoring in life cycle costs. So you should get points for using brick on a building because it's going to last forever.
Right.
But you don't get an extra point for using brick on a building. You get an extra point for using aluminum on the outside of your building because you can take it down and recycle it.
Wow.
And so the outside of the building's not going to last as long, but you get an extra point for it. And the same can be said of mechanical systems. You get points for meeting certain criteria in certain components of the system, but mechanical engineers will tell you that often when you put those components together in the way you're supposed to, the system doesn't necessarily perform better. And it relies on other things and other adjustments that can be made. So it's a really good program in the sense that it has gotten our world to talk about sustainability as part of our regular process. But it is not perfect.
When you say that, I think about the Earth also.
Uh-huh. Exactly. In college, when people talked about sustainability, when I was in design school, it was what was happening in California. Remember when Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House? That was back in those days. Right. Well, then they took them off after that.
Right. Reagan took them off.
Reagan took them off. And they just weren't appealing or exciting to people back then. It just wasn't time. And something's happened in the last 15 years where it seems to be time.
On that note, let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about other stuff. See you soon.
Hey, welcome back. We're at General Frantz Trail. We're going to take this trail right here and walk. Now, as you can see, the trail is very curvy, so we're just going to keep our awareness on the left. Nice. Beautiful day out here. Woo, the sun beaming down. Nice. Now, notice that your scenery is changing because there's more vegetation. Trees and grass are bigger, they're taller and everything. So this is where you keep your mind focused. Stay sharp. As you notice, to my immediate right, there's a pond. Now look at this. It's tall grass. Look at this. Now what would you do if a perpetrator of attack attacks you out of this area? You kick his ass in the pond. That's what you do if they come from this side on the pond. Let's go. Now that's the force for your ass. As you notice, I'm on a sidewalk and there's reflecting glass behind me. A good idea if you're an aware person, you'll look in the glass to see if somebody's behind you. Example. Whoa! Did you see a ghost? Now, as you notice behind me, we're in an alley, okay? So as you're walking down the alley, you need to be very aware of what you're doing, because you need to look to your left and your right and pay attention to every sound that plays you. Because as you see, notice, there's places for people to jump out. There's places for people to hide, you know, if they're gonna come after you. So be prepared, and only you will save you.
Okay, so you saw Iron Man 3 and have strong opinions.
I was very disappointed in Iron Man 3. Basic problem with Iron Man 3 is they burned up every good Iron Man storyline all in one movie, and they wasted them all on one movie. And I understand why they did it. We have to get to Avengers 2, which is the Age of Ultron. Mm-hmm. Now we know that's the goal.
Okay.
And Ultron is essentially Iron Man technology run amok. It's a robot that's more powerful than Iron Man that essentially can fight off all the other heroes single-handedly.
Okay, wow.
So how do you get to Ultron? So in the comic books, they get to Ultron by somebody else taking Tony Stark's technology and modifying it and turning it into something that's supposed to be good, that's an autonomous guardian that can be there whenever the other heroes can't be there.
Okay.
But of course, it goes horribly wrong, and Ultron, gets a mind of its own, and he starts acting against the other heroes. He becomes a villain. In Iron Man 3, they took the Mandarin, who was a big bad in the comic books, and they reduced him to a joke in Iron Man 3. They cast Ben Kingsley, Oscar-winning actor, to play the Mandarin, who is supposed to be like Osama bin Laden, which, okay, I could adjust to that. Really, the Mandarin is he's a paid hack drunk actor, and just never mind about the Mandarin. So, okay, giant supervillain, gone. Can't use him now anymore. Fine. Okay. And they take Extremis, which is another great Iron Man storyline, where you take something and it's supposed to turn some people into superpowered beings, and then people who can't, most people, they die. And so the idea in the comic books is that Tony has to take Extremis in order to stop AIM from using Extremis to take over. And so it's a horrible risk that Tony takes, but Tony takes it. He survives the process, and it repairs his heart at the same time. He ends up better than he started, but he took this horrible risk to save everybody. Again, great storyline. But in the movie, they don't bother with any of that. Right. And Extremis becomes something that you take, and if you can't tolerate it, you heat up until you explode, or you just plain heat up, and your superpower apparently is being strong and really, really hot. And there are a number of problems with that.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What do you think about Pepper taking the injection and surviving it and rescuing Tony at the end?
I liked Pepper rescuing Tony.
Okay.
And I really liked Pepper getting into the suit and rescuing Tony. When she should have stayed in the suit, she got out of the suit. And she did a good job rescuing Tony, and she could have done a better job had she stayed in the suit and got him completely out of trouble. But no, she gets out of the suit, and then more danger ensues. So I thought that was a great scene, and that was what I was hoping for from the trailers, right?
Okay.
But her taking the serum in and saving Tony with Extremis also could have worked, except that it didn't burn her clothes off, right?
Right.
Which is the problem with super hot villains.
Personally, I would have been fine if all her clothes burned off.
I was hoping that all her clothes would burn off, And it would have been fine if all of their clothes had burned off. You could have, just kind of fuzzed that
That's
part
a
out.
different,
And
that's a different movie.
Exactly, make it all fire. You just
Yeah.
don't see any.
It's all fire.
It's all fire.
You could have done that. And it would have been cute if, when she stopped, being super hot, if she had to hide behind a crate or something. That would have been classic Gwyneth Paltrow, Tony Stark stuff. That would have been great. But no, they ignored all that, and she gets to keep her clothes. And then she doesn't want to have the superpowers, so she gets that undone. And so now apparently she's just plain old Pepper again. So they've taken and burned up the Mandarin. They burned up Extremis. And now they've introduced, which was the ultimate goal of this and of Iron Man 2, the idea that Tony has created a technology that he can't control, and that Jarvis is going to take his ability to manage all these Iron Man suits independently, and that Jarvis is going to end up being Ultron, right? It's obvious now that if you don't have Hank Pym creating Ultron, we left Jarvis running 45 Iron Man suits independently, plenty of superpower.
Well, that's a classic story right there, because Iron Man was over Jarvis. That was his computer system. Now Jarvis betrays him, and now they're arch enemies. So Tony has to outsmart the machine that he created.
Exactly.
So
Sounds like a pretty good story.
Exactly. And in some of the animatics for Avengers, there were scenes that they threw out where Jarvis is suggesting to Tony that Tony shouldn't go join the other Avengers because Tony is better than the other Avengers. Jarvis is starting to get kind of a big head.
iRobot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of yes. I can see where they're going with that. Good storyline.
Mm-hmm.
That could be good. I'll be glad to see that. Avengers 2, I think, will still be a great movie. I just think they burned way too many bridges with Iron Man's character to get there. I don't think they had to do that. Bad choices. Bad movie. But that's all right. It's going to be okay. Avengers 2 is going to be good.
But most of them are pretty good.
Iron Man 3, thumbs down. Avengers 2, probably thumbs up.
Okay, probably. And Superman meets Batman. Anybody?
I think it's got potential.
Got potential?
I like Ben Affleck. I think
Yes.
just because you do a bad movie doesn't make you a horrible actor.
Right.
I think he's going to be good as an older Bruce Wayne.
I'm looking
Thumbs
forward
up.
to that too. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, that was the show today, man. It was real cool. We kicked it. We spoke about everything. So,
Goodbye.
Bye.